What's up, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Bulls Latest. Your host, Matt Johnson here. We're here to kick off yet another month of the NBA offseason, August 1st, and we wanted to start today's show by looking at Vooch's future following his tenure with the Chicago Bulls. Now, I know this is a little ways out. Given the reports this week, he is expected to remain a Bull for the final season of his deal, or at least the start of it. Coming into this next season, I think that allows the Bulls to win more games and kind of stay competitive, especially if the news of Ayo staying as well is going to come to a close here. So bringing back Vooch and Ayo would allow this Bulls team to remain pretty competitive given the pieces that they have. Looking at a list, though, of some suitors for Vooch next year, some suitors could be in line to kind of look to add the veteran presence in Vooch, starting with the Los Angeles Lakers. I know the Golden State Warriors would be interested as well. They were to have interest in him during the trade deadline this past season. The Orlando Magic as well are a very solid option for him to return there and kind of add a veteran presence to a very young up-and-coming team there. In terms of what the Lakers could do to get, him involved, they added DeAndre Ayton. I think Vooch, just looking down the road here for that Lakers team, could be an option in terms of allowing them to jump to the top tier of the Western Conference there. And then, when you look at Indiana, they kind of have a different situation there. Tyrese Halliburton going to miss the entirety of this upcoming season, rehabbing that Achilles, so they're kind of gearing up for the year to follow. And I think adding Vooch after losing Turner to Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference would be a solid move. It'd be a solid spinoff, assuming that Vucevic would want to go and stay in the Eastern Conference there. We'll have to see what happens. But I wanted to kind of shift gears here and talk about the odds I was looking at some of the odds here in terms of what the Chicago Bulls are involved in moving into next season and kind of what to expect and what the odds kind of tell us here. Josh Giddey is 7th in odds on DraftKings to win Most Improved Player next season at plus 2,500. That speaks to the opportunity of sorts for him to stay in Chicago and what that means. I think they're kind of banking on him staying in Chicago, winning Most Improved Player. He sits behind the leader in odds, Denny Adija, of the Portland Blazers. Portland has a couple of players on this list along with Indiana. I'll go over that in a second here, but those are two teams. Indiana is going to be in more of an influx this upcoming season, but Portland, watch out for that Portland team, and that could ultimately help the Bulls in turning that draft pick that they sent in that Lauri Markkanen deal a few years back. I went over that deal a little while back in this show, but that could help the Bulls in gaining a first-round pick if Portland is competitive. So Denny Adija, and then obviously you have the Thompson twins coming off very solid rookie seasons, but Osser and Amin Thompson, Detroit and Houston expected to be widely competitive again. They're at plus 2,000 to win the Most Improved Player award. Andrew Nembhard and Benedict Mathurin of Indiana are on this list as well as top guys. Scoot Henderson, another Blazer on this list. I just think when you look at this list, it's telling because, and I wanted to put this in today's show because Josh Giddey being on this list up there in odds, plus 2,500, even that he's listed shows that there is some speculation by the odds makers there that he's going to remain in Chicago. So we'll have to see how that shakes out moving forward. Jumping into some more Bulls odds here, I was kind of diving into some of this stuff today. The Bulls have the fourth best odds to be the number 10 seed in the East next season. So they actually have odds for each seed and how it's broken down in terms of what team has which odds to finish there. The Bulls are plus 550 to finish the number 10 seed. The Miami Heat are the favorite to land at the 10 spot at plus 475. The Raptors and Pacers are plus 500, and then the Bulls follow them up at plus 550. I just think when you look at this, it's a group of teams. With the exception of Toronto, I expect Toronto to be a little bit better. Granted, they are a young roster, so that makes some sense there and why they're pegged at that number, but when you look at Miami, not really sure what they're going to be, a very young team. And then Indiana, obviously, without their star player in Tyrese Halliburton upcoming for this next campaign here, moving into next season, they're going to be probably hovering that middle ground as well in terms of the back end of the play-in tournament. So the Bulls going to be sniffing the play-in tournament again. I do think with bringing back this group, I think that there's a lot of potential to finish in that 9-10 range and potentially find themselves in a spot that is all too familiar to Bulls fans in the last few years. I just think it's kind of interesting when you look at there are pretty solid odds for the Bulls to get that 10 seed in the East, and I want to talk about that a little bit today. When you look at, they also had a number on the over-under on the seed for the Bulls, and this is even more interesting because it shows how close it's going to be in terms of where the Bulls are going to finish between either, I would say, 9 or 11 in the East. Their over-under is set at 11.5. The over 11.5 on their seed for the East in this upcoming year is at plus 105. The under 11.5 comes in at minus 130. So it is narrowly expected that they're going to finish under that 11.5 seed mark. I think it's extremely likely, considering these guys are going to be on the roster to start this next season, that the Bulls are going to finish somewhere in the range of the 7 to 10. I think that they're bound to be another play-in team in the Eastern Conference unless guys are moved in the upcoming weeks. There's been chatter that a lot of the guys are going to stay, like I've talked about. So I just think that it makes a ton of sense for this Bulls team to land in that range there. And the odds are kind of telling in terms of both getting that most improved player opportunity, and then obviously where the Bulls have the odds sitting for them to finish 10th in the East. So just some interesting stuff there on a lighter show today. I wanted to dive into some look-ahead stuff on this Bulls team in terms of where Vooch could end up next following his tenure in Chicago. I'm assuming he spends the next season here. And I kind of wanted to dive in. There was a big extension. This kind of, it impacts the Bulls because this is, in my eyes, the favorite to win the Eastern Conference next year. I know the odds speak differently. Cleveland is currently plus 250 to win the East, and they come in as the top team with an opportunity odds-wise to win the Eastern Conference, followed up by the Knicks, who are narrowly behind them. But the Knicks and Mikal Bridges agreed yesterday on a 4-year, $150 million extension with a player option for 2029, 2030, and a trade kicker. Bridges, and is to note here, is taking a slight discount from his max extension number of $156 million, and that'll help New York maintain flexibility to add to their roster. And I know Jalen Brunson did the same thing when restructuring his deal. These guys are going all in. It's funny, though, they still do not have a head coach. So there's a lot of anticipation behind New York. Getting that Mikal Bridges deal done, I think, speaks to some stability there as a franchise when you are looking for your next head coach. He was a very impactful player in New York's run a year ago. I think that the New York Knicks are going to be a force and are going to push people around in the Eastern Conference, quite frankly. So overall, I just wanted to kind of give you guys a scope of what's next here for Chicago, kind of looking down the road at what to expect. And, as we all know, the odds that are set oftentimes are set for a reason. They are pretty close more often than not. So having the Bulls at those numbers is quite interesting to look at in terms of where they're at this point in the offseason as the odds start to trickle out ahead of the schedule release and all that stuff. So overall, let me know if you guys have any thoughts on Vooch's future. Do you want to see him move now? Would you rather the Bulls hang on to him like it's been reported they're going to in the last couple of days? I know there's been various opinions on both him and Ayo Dosunmu throughout the entirety of this show. I like to hear all the different takes on it and see where you guys are at as Bulls fans and supporters. So as always, thanks again, guys, for joining me on another episode of Bulls Latest, and we will catch you next time.